You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Excited you could join me today on our first Cabral HouseCall of the weekend. We're going to be able to get into your questions in just a moment. And like every weekend, we have so many great community questions really come in. And this is something that I wanted to start just about 2.5 years ago, where I saw how many emails that we were getting. And I said, it would be so much better if I could answer these live or if I could record these, because email just has no tone to it. It has no feeling to it at all. And for me to answer an email, you know how much I despise email. If you've been tuning into my Motivation and Mindset Mondays, it's one of the things that I've eliminated from my life that I've been fortunate enough to be able to really do. And I know that not everyone's able to do that, but I try to give back and I try to help in other ways. And for me, yes, maybe it might take a little bit longer to record my answer on these house calls. I just think it's far more beneficial and it helps me feel like I'm serving some deeper purpose than just kind of like banging out some words on a keyboard, which I'm not even great at typing in the first place. So, really happy that I'm able to do this. I know that we have so many questions that have been submitted that we're still working through March 2018 questions, but we will get there. And as you know too, that all questions for the most part now are being diverted over to cabralsupportgroup.com. Now keep in mind, you can always ask your question for me to answer personally on the house calls, which are the weekend house calls every Saturday and Sunday. And you just go to stephencabral.com/ask Cabral. And I'll answer those. We have about probably a 10 to 12 week lead time of how long it will take for me to get to those. But remember, we can get to them basically daily, almost every day, Monday through Friday at cabralsupportgroup.com. That's a free Facebook group page. That's our community. That is literally our online community where I share all sorts of things. Like this coming Monday, I'm starting my own summer 7-day detox. Excited about that. We have so many people from the community joining in with me. And that's something I look forward to doing much more in the future. I've been doing the functional medicine detox, which is the Dr. Cabral detox, for about 7 years now. It's hard to believe, but it's been 7 years. And I've done that seasonally. So the first time I started out was 21 days. I've done a couple 14 days. Now they're pretty much just 7-day detoxes. They're allowing me to continue. I live in the city and I'm exposed to toxins every day, just like everyone else. I try to eat cleanly, but that doesn't have anything to do with all the plastics in the environment and the heavy metals and all the different, when I walk outside, the brake dust and the pollution, all that stuff. I'm breathing that in on a daily basis. So what I try to do is simply help my body out. I try to give my liver the support that it needs to be able to clean my blood, and taking 2 days off from really all the whole food meals and all the heaviness of digestion, and doing 4 shakes per day for those first 2 days are really what begins to clean out the system. So sometimes it's not always the easiest process. Sometimes the detox for me is completely, simple. It's like no big deal at all. And then other times, depending where my body's at, where my energy's at, it might be a little bit more of a challenge. But I can tell you this, there has never been a Dr. Cabral detox that I've done where at the end of the 7 days or 14 or 21 days that I haven't felt proud that I did it, that I didn't feel like, wow, like that benefited me, that served me in the long run. And if you've never experienced it before, I don't even ask you to go out and purchase it and like that. Just read more about it. Or read what a functional medicine detox can do for you. I have a lot of podcasts on that. You can literally just type in functional medicine detox at stephencabral.com/podcasts, or you can go to drcabraldetox.com and just read about what a functional medicine detox is, exactly how to do it. I just spell it out right there for you. So that's what it's all about. I mean, we're going to get started right now, but the Cabral House Calls and every day on the Cabral Concept is just about education. It's about what one thing can I teach on a daily basis that, whether it's for you or someone that you care about, someone you love, that you can be able to pass that information on. And plus, I believe a lot of the times that there's enough information in every day's show we can learn something. And even if it's not affecting you today, well, what if it happens 2 years in the future, 5 years in the future? You're prepared for it because you know about whatever that thing is. So that's what we're all about here, is the whole phrase, the whole philosophy of each one teach one. I just think that that's such a beautiful phrase. And that's what it's all about. When you learn something, pass it on, right? And someone will pass it on to you as well. All right, so let's get right into today's first question. It's coming in from Rosie. Rosie's asking, I've been struggling with Candida for a while now, and I've recently begun a program in hopes to get a handle on it. I was wondering what foods you suggest to eat to aid in the process of getting rid of the overgrowth, and what foods you suggest to stay away from. I'm currently eating no foods with sugar or starches, which is very limiting. Is there another way? All right. So this is a really great question. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, Rosie, because I did a whole show for you. It's on episode 725. Go to stephencabral.com/725. It's called Candida Diets Don't Work. So, and the reason why it's called Candida Diets Don't Work is that it's an old school philosophy, meaning like 30 years ago, they're like, oh, you have to go on the Candida diet, don't eat any carbs, don't eat any fruit, don't eat any this. Well, it's outdated science. And there are a lot of vegetables that you need to eliminate. There's a lot of fruit that you need to eliminate. And there are a lot of starches that you need to eliminate, but you don't need to eliminate all of them. On our sensitive guide, we allow over 2 dozen fruit, over 3 dozen vegetables. We allow many different types of gluten-free based starches. So that's a lot to name on one particular podcast. I go over that pretty much in depth on episode 725. But I will tell you this. I've been through this myself. I had one of the worst cases, Candida overgrowth, that you could possibly imagine, meaning that it was in my intestines, it was overgrown in my stomach, it was all the way up my esophagus. And this was confirmed actually by endoscopy, so a scope down my throat. Well, it was in my mouth, of course, and so they didn't have to guess too much that it might be in my esophagus. And it was all the way down my esophagus as well. So I learned the hard way that Candida diets, yes, they're going to help starve some of that Candida and yeast overgrowth, but really you need a good Candida protocol. There is no better Candida protocol, I can guarantee you that, than the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol that we offer. It's been refined over 9 years, 10 years, honestly. It's been even more than that. And really, it's what you need. It's exactly how the body works. It uses biofilm disruptors. It doesn't add in probiotics right away. It doesn't add in prebiotics, which you don't want right away. It walks you through the process step by step. It's one of the best things that I ever did for my body. It's what began to remove the pathogens, remove the bacteria, remove the SIBO, remove the yeast, and then I began to seal up that gut wall. When I did that, when I finally did it, the allergies began to dissipate. The immune system began to rebuild. My skin started to look better, no more acne, like all of those things. And so it's one of the best things you can truly do for your body. And again, it's all the information is free. You don't have to even start it. Just learn more about the information. Go to episode 725 to get started on that. Okay, Melody's up next. Melody's asking, hi, Dr. Cabral. I found you about a year ago and so very much appreciate the information you offer on a daily basis. While I feel I'm very early on my journey to improved health and wellness, I want to take as many baby steps as I can in cleaning up not only my own diet, but my own home environment as well. My question today is centered around general household products. I've already tackled filtered water, both drinking and in the shower, and want to move on gradually other toxic items that may be unknowingly on my daily or weekly basis. Can you offer your top 5 or top 10 areas to tackle regarding home cleaning products, laundry detergents, fabric softeners, candles, and home fragrances, plugins, which I recently learned are both no-nos, etc. Any guidance and or recommendations would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. All right, Melody, great question. This question actually came in before my book launched. So, Melody, hopefully you've picked up a purchase of The Rain Barrel Effect. So the book is called The Rain Barrel Effect. All profits go to charity. 100% of all profits, everything goes to charity. And you can find it on Amazon. It's called The Rain Barrel Effect. Not only do I give you my top 5 or my top 10, I give you all of them. I literally go through toothpaste. I go through deodorant. I go through all of it. And yes, you're right. Plugins and all of those synthetic fragrances are a definite no-no. Just because you can't see it and you're not ingesting it, you're actually breathing it into your nasal passages. That's going directly into your bloodstream, and your liver still has to detox all of those gases. And a lot of times they're even worse for you. So check out The Rain Barrel Effect and all of those. Not only are all of your answers right in there under the toxins chapter, but I'll tell you this, there's also a secret page. Yes, literally a secret page in The Rain Barrel Effect that's for people who purchase The Rain Barrel Effect. And that's a private link that just gives everybody then links to make it easy on one webpage, all the different Amazon-based products and all the different great products in general. Obviously not all on Amazon. I don't want the entire world to be shopping just from Amazon. I don't think that's a very good thing to create a monopoly in that way, although I know it is convenient. So we link out to all of the best products, like literally whether it's Dr. Bronner's or you name it, it's on there. So check that out. All right. Zach's up next. Zach is asking, hi, Dr. Ball. I'm suffering from some tinnitus that is unrelenting. I haven't noticed any hearing loss, but over the past several months, I've been battling this constant ear ringing, and it seems like there's no hope. I'm only 22, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life. Anytime I try to sit back in a peaceful, quiet space or try to meditate, I end up with even more stressed out by the ringing in my ears. I have not seen a doctor yet for this, but I intend to very soon. I hope you can shed some light on this, and any advice would be appreciated. Okay, so Zach, I did a whole show on this. Just type in tinnitus. Not a whole show, but it's on a house call. Go to stephencabral.com/podcast and type in tinnitus. So remember, as you write in questions for the house call, it is best to go to stephencabral.com/podcast first. Then type in your keyword. In this case, it would be tinnitus. And in the question before, you could type in like shower filter or water filter. Obviously, Melody already did that. And then for Rosie, you could type in Candida diet. So all of these things, for the most part, have been answered on previous shows. And what I want to do is try to tackle as many questions as possible. So Zach, your question will be answered right there. You'll learn about what B vitamins you might be deficient in. You'll learn about glucose metabolism. You'll learn about any impingement in the cervical vertebrae neck area called the trigeminal area, which regulates blood flow in and out. So you'll learn about all the different reasons for tinnitus, and that will allow you to get a better handle on that. All right. Vregi, I apologize, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, is up next. And again, you can read everybody's questions at stephencabral.com/869. So you can actually see the correct pronunciation. And I should know this since I spent many, many months overseas. And I believe that this is an Indian name, but of course I could be wrong on that as well. I usually don't make assumptions, but it does look that way since, again, I have many friends still to this day from India that I keep in touch with. I have some just great relationships I made over there. And actually, I'll let you know soon. There's a possibility I'll be making a trip not too far away to do some more Ayurvedic work over in India and actually be able to teach there as well as be taught, because anytime I go to India, I'm over there to learn from the masters and learn from the greats. And this time I might be able to actually go over there and teach myself. So this will be pretty exciting to be able to teach some state-of-the-art techniques to a lot of the Ayurvedic doctors, and we can kind of share wisdom, which I just think is amazing to be able to do that many, many years later after being there. Okay, so the question is this. Hello, Dr. Ball. Thank you so much for everything you do. I recently read an article about wild fish containing parasites and worms. I do not care for purchasing farm-raised fish, but this does make me a little apprehensive about buying wild caught. I love sushi and would prefer to eat only on the coast, but once or twice a year, I eat in Texas. What are your thoughts on this? Okay, so yes, there are parasites and worms in some fish. And it's also, though, just keep in mind, in some farm-raised as well. It's not just wild-caught. Now, wild-caught, you might have more of a chance, but certainly it's in farm-raised. Now, if you eat farm-raised, it's much, much worse than wild-caught because they're feeding them soy and they're feeding them chicken parts and they're feeding them all sorts of nasty things that you certainly wouldn't want your fish to be eating. And the other thing is it's swimming in literally swimming pools, and that swimming pools aren't being filtered as well as we would like them to be, and they're swimming in their own feces. So it's not an ideal condition. Trust me on that. So with the wild caught, a lot of people do have these issues and worry about this. Now, do keep in mind, it's one more reason why it's getting a little bit scarier to eat sushi. I do agree with you. I do agree with that. And I'm getting a little bit leery of that as well. And I'm someone that loves sushi. But my wife's on me about that for sure, about eating raw fish, because she's seen a lot of this research, and so have I. It's just hard to give up. Could be a clean food if eaten in the right way. So here's the deal, though. Two things. One is larger fish, such as swordfish especially, lots of worms, right? Lots of worms, lots of parasites. Try not to eat those larger fish, which are going to contain more of them. I don't. I just stay away from the tuna, and I stay away from the swordfish. All right. Here's the second part. If the fish is frozen, it will kill the parasites. So that's one thing to think about. You could get wild-caught fish, and it could be frozen, and then you can thaw it, and it will be fine to cook in that way. So it's just one more way to do it. A lot of times buying frozen can be a convenience as well, that you just keep it in your freezer. And in this way, as long as the fish, I believe, is frozen, I believe it's 3 days. Don't quote me on that. You can look it up. But I believe it's 3 days. All the parasites will be dead. So hopefully that answers your question. It is disturbing. I do agree. All right, Christine's up next. Long question, so we'll try to ad-lib this question as best we can. She writes in, Dr. Brawl, I'm dealing with a lot of gut issues, a severe bout of viral gastroenteritis. While traveling to Spain in 2017, I was in the bathroom 50 plus times a day. Wow, that is intense. Christine, let's see how we can help. I still go back and forth with diarrhea, constipation, painful bloating. Had a bunch of different lab tests done. I want to get to the root cause and problem of my constant diarrhea, constipation. Should I run an organic acids test or food sensitivity testing, or what do you recommend at this point? Talks about her diet. Have also heard about this product called Restore and want to see if that's what's going to help. Okay, so these are all great questions. I have nothing against the product Restore. It's not going to restore your gut. And I don't mean that in any negative way. I really don't. It's just not going to. Like, it's not a bad product. I'm not saying that it's a bad product, but you have some type of intestinal dysbiosis. I mean, this is, in my opinion, it's fairly straightforward, meaning that there's such an imbalance that your body cannot maintain the proper flora to digest your food properly, break it down, produce vitamins and minerals and all that. Again, like, in my opinion, right away, we need to run our stool test, organic acids test. You can run the food sensitivity test if you choose to. All I need to see is the stool test and the organic acids test. I'll tell you if you have Klebsiella overgrowth, E. coli overgrowth, parasites, H. pylori, and that's on the stool test. And then on the organic acids test, and that's a parasites if I didn't mention that, because it certainly sounds like you might have a parasite. And then on the organic acids test, I'll look for yeast overgrowth and I'll look for Clostridium difficile. And here's the thing. It said you may have run of these, but I'm just telling you, they're not our labs. So keep in mind, like any lab tests that I recommend, they're not our labs. We just offer them as a convenience for you, and then I read them over. I need to see your labs. Like, that's the thing, because there's a serious issue going on, and it's not very clear whether you said that you ran C. diff and Cryptosporidium and Giardia came up. If they did, well, so let's just say like you already ran these. All right, I'm going to give you two things. One, run the organic acids test and the stool test. All right, if you didn't do those, run them with us. I'm telling you, we'll be able to figure it out. And the second part is this. If you did not, and I have to go back and give a little caveat. I can't give any guarantees. There's no guarantees, right? In health and medicine, any of these things. But we work with this all the time. And I just want to make sure that you get to the bottom of this, because this is not something you should be dealing with. Okay, so first you can get the lab test and the data will show you black and white what you have. Now, the second thing is this. If you've already found out you have Giardia and Cryptosporidium and C. diff, like, because again, I can't make it out from your question, but if you had that, then what I'm recommending is our Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol, plus add the citricidal drops in, and our team will know. You'll be able to order those from equilibriumnutrition.com, and then you'll be able to do the whole protocol with the citricidal drops, and you can just email our team if you have questions on how to use those for the 3 weeks that we recommend for those drops. That's going to help. You're going to get our sensitive gut guide. You're going to get everything that you need to get started. So first option, believe me, when you're this bad, I just recommend lab testing, because you need to figure this out right away. So I recommend organic acids test, stool test. If you already did them, you already found out what you have. Okay, then CBO protocol with the citricidal drops, sensitive gut guide, ease the foods back in, and then heal and seal the gut with our CBO finisher. That's exactly what you need to do. That's exactly what I recommend. I mean, you're always welcome to do whatever you feel is best, and I do believe that everyone should do that. But the other products that you're talking about, I don't think that they're going to get you there. Now, again, I don't think there's any harm in trying. You want to go for it and use those? No problem at all, but that's not my recommendation. All right, let me see if I can get one more question in, maybe two. Cynthia's asking, my husband recently tried cryogenics. His golf buddies are all doing it, and he says he feels better after. I prefer to check these things out. What are your opinion on cryogenics? Is it like taking Advil, a Band-Aid for inflammation? Yeah, great question. I answered this many house calls ago, or actually on a separate show. It might have even been a Friday review. Look up cryo chamber. Let me see if I can find that. I'm going to actually look it up for you right now. And that's because I want you to be able to go back on the show, because I did a whole review of it. I actually gave you all the benefits and pros and cons of doing cryo. And it's called Cryotherapy on episode 34, way back on the Cabral concept from 2+ years ago, episode 34. I'm sure I sound a lot different on episode 34, but check that out, Cynthia. That will give you all the information you need. You can also share it with your husband. And on that page, there's an image of me. I'm going to actually click on the page right now because this will be funny. There's an image of me doing cryo out at Chiltonic in San Diego. So I was out there and I did some cryo out there, and it was actually a good experience. All right. Last question of the day is from Emily. Emily's asking, hi, Dr. Cabral. I'm a 26-year-old female. My doctor recently told me I have cervicitis as I recently experienced abdominal pain. How can I treat this without going on antibiotics? Thanks for your help. Okay. So inflammation of the cervix is called cervicitis. And let's see how we can help you today, Emily. All right. So the first thing we have to understand is how one gets that in the first place. Like, how do you have inflammation of the cervix? So the most common causes are sexually transmitted diseases. So my first, again, I don't know Emily, and I just want to provide as much help as I can. So you just want to make sure that you've already been tested for chlamydia, gonorrhea, genital herpes, any of the common STDs or STIs, right? Sexually transmitted infections. So we'll want to get tested for those first. The next thing you want to look at, sometimes contraceptives. So condoms, and there are things as well called feminine deodorants that you don't necessarily want to put in your body if you are allergic to them, right? If you're sensitive to them, that can cause inflammation. The other part, and this is something that more of essentially what we specialize in and talk about quite a bit, is bacterial vaginosis. And so with bacterial vaginosis, and I've talked about this on many house calls, so you can simply go back to stevencabral.com/podcast and type in BV or bacterial vaginosis, and you can see all the different reasons for that. One of the best ways to figure this out, now I'm going to give you a little bit more information as well, but one of the best ways to figure this out is actually run an organic acids test and or a stool test. I recommend the organic acids test first, the stool test second. So if you can afford both, do both. If you can only afford one, you'll run the organic acids test first to look for yeast overgrowth or Candida overgrowth. Now, bacteria can be overgrown, and that's better to look for in the stool test. But what happens is sometimes there's simply an imbalance. So when the vaginal flora, it usually becomes a little bit too alkaline, that the body will begin to produce more bacteria or have an imbalance in bacteria. Other reasons for cervicitis are any type of viruses and overall inflammation in the body. And for some women, if let's just say they're more sexually active, that the inflammation can be triggered more around the cervix. So what I'm looking for you to do is essentially figure out what might be the root cause for your inflammation. Would it be a sexually transmitted infection like gonorrhea, chlamydia? Would it be some type of allergic reaction? Mainly, does this happen after sexual intercourse with condoms? Or, what are some other triggers that it might be? And then the other thing to look at is, do you get any type of discharge? And that discharge could be, again, another sign of bacterial vaginosis. So I've done whole shows on that. What I would like you to do is figure this out without resorting to antibiotics. If you have to, you have to. I totally understand that. But here's the problem. When you use antibiotics once, it's going to disrupt the microflora of the gut. It's also going to disrupt the nasal flora and the vaginal flora. So you have to keep in mind that no matter what, like it's a fine short-term fix. It's not even a fine short-term fix. It's not great, but you do what you have to do, and I totally understand that. What you want to look for is what's a long-term solution to this, right? Because you're 26 years old. We need to help you figure out this answer. And so one of the things that I like to do is first, I like to lab test. And then second, I like to try to figure out what else might be going on. So with your PCP, with your MD, you'll check for sexually transmitted infections and diseases. You'll run an organic acids test and or stool test. And you'll really be able to figure this out. I really believe that you'll be able to rebalance the body, and then this will be a thing of the past for you. So hopefully today's show was helpful. Thank you all for tuning into another Cabral Concept. I appreciate all of your listens and all of your shares. And thank you so much to everyone who's reviewed the podcast on iTunes. Like I said, I read every single one of those reviews. I kind of look at them once a week as I'm going through all of the shows to make sure they populated correctly on iTunes. I look to see which ones that people are tuning into the most so that I know, like, okay, this topic nobody really cares about. This topic everybody likes. That the show is about you. It really is. It's about the community. It's about you. And I truly am here to try to help and give back as much as I can. I've been given so much with many mentors helping me get back my health many, many years ago, and then having the good fortune of being able to go overseas and actually study with all of the amazing doctors in China and Sri Lanka and India and Europe, and of course in the United States as well. So it's a pleasure. I thank you. I truly do. And hopefully you'll be back tomorrow for part 2 of the Cabral House Calls. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me
to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.